Why? Who keeps asking for these movies? I don't get why studios think these live-action adaptations need to be made. Fullmetal Alchemist: The Revenge of Scar is the sequel to the first live-action Fullmetal Alchemist film released back in 2017. 6 years later, and they aren't done desecrating the memories of a beloved anime series with an abomination of a live-action interpretation. Full of god-awful CGI, bad acting, and barely coherent storytelling that's loosely based on the source material. Strap in, let's discuss it. Let's just get this out of the way, if it's not abundantly clear already. I wasn't a fan of the first attempt of bringing FMA to live action. The original anime, and by extension Brotherhood, both hold a special place in my heart as classic anime that I both watched and grew up with at different stages of my life. The original series came out when I was barely a teenager, and discovered what Japanese animation was all about. That was followed up by the anime movies and then Brotherhood to complete the experience in my early adult years, regardless of how many feel about the anime sticking to and adapting the original manga. That said, when the trailers dropped for the live-action movie, I was cautiously optimistic. Yes, the visuals weren't great, but there was still hope that they might be able to pull off something fairly competent and entertaining. Spoiler alert, it sucked. Hard. I wasn't able to watch more than 45 minutes before losing interest and honestly falling asleep. But that's not what we're here for. I want to try and figure out why The Revenge of Scar was even made in the first place. Not like many people who saw the first movie wanted more anyway. Fullmetal Alchemist: The Revenge of Scar continues the story of the Elric brothers, who meet their toughest opponent yet, a lone serial killer with a large scar on his forehead. The remaining story is chopped into 2 parts, with The Revenge of Scar being the first part and the Final Alchemy being the conclusion, both releasing on Netflix 1 month apart. The first thing you'll see right away is that the CGI is back. Movies with such a heavy focus on varied locations and necessary effects would require a lot of CGI and special effects to pull it off. And unless you have Disney-level money and a budget to really pull this off, Revenge of Scar looks as good as to be expected. Like a $5 hooker trying to convince you she's worth twice the price. You get what you pay for, but something just feels wrong. The movie has all the fan pandering you would expect. This time around, characters that were excluded from the first are all here. We finally get to see the main man herself, Scar, and he looks like meh. Everyone still looks like high-budget cosplay. They both look like the characters we know and love from the anime, but they don't feel like them. Putting the brain-numbingly bad acting aside, everyone looks like overexcited randos that someone picked up from a Costco parking lot and gave fancy costumes to wear. None of them ever truly embody any of the characters that they're supposed to be portraying. I get that they're giving the performance of their life, but it doesn't quite come through. I think the biggest complaint here is something that is carried over from the first movie is the culture-blind casting. Scar is not Japanese. Say it with me now, Scar is not Japanese. By making Scar Asian and not Arabic, or more specifically North African, they took away the entire meaning of his character, making him the same ethnicity as the Elrics and the rest of Amestria, which is supposed to be a version of Germany in this universe. It completely removed the conflict that existed there because the peoples in that universe didn't see each other as equals. The events of the manga worked because they realistically showed the tension that arose from the geographic and culture differences of these characters. Here, that's gone. Fullmetal Alchemist: The Revenge of Scar is crammed full of awful CGI action scenes, horrible acting, and cosplay that'll make you cringe into next week. It doesn't matter what I or anyone else thinks. Companies will keep making these live-action abominations because the fact is, while they are expensive to make, audiences will keep on watching them.